This is the third in a series of videos designed to help guitar players understand how to read music. In the first two videos, we covered the music staff and notes in the treble clef. In this video, we're going to cover some basic rhythms, ties, and time signatures. The quarter note is your basic beat, so if you're tapping your foot to the beat, you're probably tapping quarter notes. That filled-in oval is called the note head, and the stem is attached to the note head. The stem can point up or down. A quarter note lasts one beat, so if I play a series of quarter notes, it's going to sound like this. A quarter note is one beat of playing, and a quarter rest is one beat of silence. As a guitar player, when I see a quarter rest, I'm going to stop the string from sounding at the beginning of the rest by either letting go of the note with the left hand or touching the string with my right hand. Whatever note or chord I'm playing, I want it to stop so that the quarter rest is actually silent. You're going to see two numbers stacked up on top of each other at the beginning of the music. This is called the time signature. The top number of the time signature tells you how many beats are in each measure. In this case, the top number is 4, so there are going to be 4 beats in the measure. The bottom number tells you what kind of note gets the beat, and the 4 at the bottom stands for a quarter note. So if you put all this together, we're going to have 4 quarter notes, or 4 beats, in every measure. Sometimes you'll see another number at the bottom, like an 8 or a 2. Those stand for other types of notes, but we've only talked about quarter notes so far, so let's just stick with that 4. Notice that I've added a number under each quarter note. That's how you count the beats in 4/4 time. Each measure you're going to count 1, 2, 3, 4, and then start over at 1, 2, 3, 4. And here's how I write the counting with quarter rests. Any number underneath the quarter rest is in parentheses. This shows that the beat is still there, but it's a silent beat. 4/4 time is the most common time signature. In fact, there's a time signature that appears as a big old C, which stands for common time. Common time stands for 4/4, which is the most common time signature. So if you see a big C where the time signature goes, you're going to be counting 4 beats per measure. It's just basically going to be 4/4 time. 2/4 and 3/4 are also fairly common. Remember that the top number tells you how many beats are in the measure, and the bottom number tells you what kind of note gets the beat. So in 2/4 time, you're going to count 2 quarter notes per measure, 1, 2, 1, 2. And in 3/4 time, you can probably guess that you're going to count 3 quarter notes each measure, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. It doesn't matter what the time signature is, quarter rests work just the same. So if I write out the counting, I'm going to put parentheses around any number that's below a quarter rest. Now let's talk about notes that last longer than one beat. We have a half note, a dotted half note, and a whole note. The half note looks like a quarter note, only the note head's not filled in. The dotted half is a half note with a dot after it, so you can probably guess why it's called a dotted half note. And the whole note is not filled in, and there is no stem. A half note lasts 2 beats. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. A dotted half lasts 3 beats. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. And a whole note lasts 4 beats. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. When I write out the counting for the half note, dotted half note, and whole note, I write dashes in between the numbers. The dashes show that you're going to hold the notes throughout some of the beats rather than playing on every beat. If I'm playing half notes in 2/4 time, I'm going to be counting 1, 2, 1, 2. Now if I'm playing half notes in 4/4 time, I'm going to count 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Remember that you want to count every beat, so even though that second half note gets 2 beats, you're going to start counting that half note from whichever beat it starts on in the measure. There's a quarter note and a quarter rest. There's also a half note and a half rest, which gets 2 beats of silence. a dotted half note, and a dotted half rest, which gets 3 beats of silence, and a whole note and a whole rest, which gets 4 beats of silence. When I write out the counting for these types of rest, I'm going to put each number in parentheses to show that the beats are there, but they're silent. Quick note about that whole rest. A whole rest generally means 4 beats of silence, but it also is used to show an entire measure of rest regardless of the time signature. So if you see a whole rest in, say, 3/4 time, it's going to be 3 beats of rest because we're in 3/4 time. Here's how these rhythms combine. First example is in 4/4 time. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And notice I mute that string every single time I have a rest. Next example is also in 4/4 time. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Third example is in 3/4 time, and this one has a whole note rest in the second measure. Remember that a whole note rest can stand for 4 beats of rest, but in this context, it stands for an entire measure of rest in 3/4 time, so it's going to be 3 beats of rest. 1, 2, 3, rest, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. The last example is in 2/4 time. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. A tie is a curved line that connects 2 or more notes to create one longer note. A tie can only connect notes that are the same pitch. You can't connect, say, an A or a B with a tie, but you can use a tie to connect 2 or more A's together. A tie can connect notes across bar lines, and you can connect notes inside a measure with a tie as well. And you can tie multiple notes together as long as they're the same pitch. This example is in 4/4 time, and notice that in the first measure we have a half note tied to a quarter note in the second measure, so we're not going to restate that quarter note. We keep letting the note ring through that beat, and the first note we're going to play in the second measure is going to be on beat 2. We also have a half note in the third measure tied to a half note in the fourth measure. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. This one is in 3/4 time. We start off with a dotted half note in one measure tied to a dotted half note in the next measure, so that's going to be 6 beats of sustain total, and we have another tie toward the end of this example. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. And this last example is kind of silly, but it just highlights that you can tie as many notes together as you want as long as they're all the same note. And we're in 2/4 time. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. This whole series of videos is really just a crash course in music reading. It's really going to start to make sense once you start putting it to use and practice music reading every day. If you want to know how to read music and you're looking for a place to start, check out my guitar books. There's a link in the description below. For music reading, you should study my melody guitar books. Melody Guitar 1 starts you off with just 3 notes, and then we add 1 note and 1 rhythm at a time so you don't get overwhelmed. And that is your introduction to some basic rhythms, rests, ties, and time signatures. In the next video, I'm going to show you tempo markings, plus 1/8 notes, 16th notes, and dotted quarter notes. That's all for now. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time with more guitar tips.